Am I late again? Yes. Are we talking about it? No. Oh. Hello. How are you? There we go. I had to plug in this phone, otherwise it's not going to last very long. The layout in here is causing me an amount of distress. Book. How are we today? Acceptable. Things are progressing too rapidly. I am not ready for today to be over. I feel like I didn't accomplish as much as I could have. But it's alright. How are you all? I haven't been keeping up with the Discord today. I mean the mystery place where we all meet. Gotta stop talking about it. Is this mic working? Oof, I plugged it in right before this. I didn't even check that. Can you hear me? Insomniac. Good to see you. I'm gonna put this in the bottom of my waistcoat so it doesn't hop around all evening. There we go. Two. First rule of Fight Club. Yeah, you're right. I know. I knew that. Did I know that? Yes. Are we talking about it? No. So, hopefully we're all good. Jesus. Stein. Jesus. Will become apparent later. Is there beer in that? We'll never know. We're not talking about it. It's a smoothie. Once again, sorry I'm late. Thank you. If you're here and you know what I'm cosplaying, congratulations for keeping up with everything. Also, thank you for bearing with me through the month of February. If you're still here, great. 2.5 hours to go, so you might lose signal. Well, you'll be able to catch it on YouTube. And I'm sure... I don't know how to say that, Finn. I don't know what you were trying to say. Hello. I mean, that wasn't a word. Am I wrong? You're going to look at me and you're going to tell me that I'm wrong? Blast. Grow up, bro. You're struggling today. So, Tuesday. Finn, please, come on. Struggle every day. There's a cat. Cat ran in here. Alright, I need you all to get your shit together and get together your plan for cats. Thorny has sent me her plan for cats. Is it a great plan? We'll see. And I don't know what to do about the cat. They just ran in here. I'm tied to this mic stand. So... what's my favorite color? Purple. In real life.
So the neighbor knocked on the front door because he was getting a package that they had dropped off the wrong address. He wanted us to know he wasn't stealing our package, but it scared me so bad I'm shaking because who knocks on our door?
I was wondering why the dog was going nuts. Yes. That's great. Our neighbor knocked on the door.
Anytime somebody knocks on the door.
He's just shaking on the porch.
I'm like, hello? I always think it's the police.
God, me too. Ever since the one time the police showed up here.
At like 2 in the morning.
At 3 in the morning. We're all watching The Mandalorian. That scared the shit out of me. Who comes to do that?
At 3 in the morning.
Because I scratched that car in a parking lot at 3 a.m. and shines their lights through the windows. And sends like 2 cops.
Yeah.
They're 2 separate cop cars. You would have thought we were getting busted.
Probably because Beth got busted here.
Sorry. There was an incident. Not long ago.
I didn't know you were already live.
Yeah, no, sorry. I didn't want to... No, the cat ran in here. That's why the door was open. And the cat pushed the door open, ran in here. I don't know where the cat's at now. And probably under here.
Sorry.
No, yeah, you're good.
I just wanted to let you know what's going on. It was the neighbor being nice.
Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know. No, our neighbor knocked on the door. We thought we always think it's the cops, and it was because once not too long ago I parked in a parking lot, in a very tight parking lot where all the spaces were slanted, and I was pulling out. It was very late at night. It was very dark, and there were no street lights. And I was trying to get around a dump truck that was trying to get at the dumpster in this parking lot, and I was trying to wheel my way around it, and I accidentally scratched a car, but I couldn't tell if I actually scratched it. So once I had gotten around the car, I got out of my car to go and check this other car. Couldn't see anything because it was so dark, so I thought it was fine, and I left. Well, that car was a WK, rent-a-cop car. Let's say. It's not a real cop. It's not a state trooper. It's like a cordon cop. And they came 3 days later while we were like all up watching The Mandalorian at 3 a.m. Started shining flashlights in the windows. And we were like, what the hell is going on? And then like 2 cops like started banging on our door. Like there were 2 cop cars, separate cop cars in our driveway, all to tell me that I scratched a vehicle. And then they charged me with a hit and run and a felony. All because I scratched a rent-a-cop. Yeah, I talked to a judge 3 separate times. I was like, you're really going to give me a felony for scratching a rent-a-cop car? Yeah. Luckily, they diminished the sentence after all the particulars had gotten out, but there was like security cam footage of the area. And so they were like, they thought the time was wrong on the camera, and they thought it was 11:30 a.m. and not 11:30 p.m. So I was like, I couldn't see. And they were like, how could you not see? And I was like, it was 11:30 at night. And they were like, oh, we thought it was like in the middle of the day and you just left. Because the time was wrong in the camera. So I got charged with a felony for a while from a technicality and a camera malfunction. It wasn't a great time. So there's my unnecessary story of the week. I'm a criminal. Not by choice. Yeah. Yeah. And all this was during COVID. So you couldn't go into court, into in-person court, and explain yourself. So it's just me on the phone playing phone tag between a prosecutor, a state-assigned defense attorney, and a judge in like a bunch of different phone calls, like 15 phone calls, all for them to relay all this miscommunication through COVID. It was insane. But you know what? It's not so bad. Because if that hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't have started cosplaying. Because I started cosplaying with the free time I had after I lost my job from that incident. I got it back. But I lost my job from that incident. Just so you know. So I had a load of free time and I wasn't doing so great mentally. So I started cosplaying again. And I realized TikTok was a good platform to do it on. And so I started putting it on TikTok then during this episode. So that's my fun backstory of how I started cosplaying. Got charged with a felony by the cops. So I'm a criminal. I'm dangerous. You shouldn't associate with me. No. So, you want to hear some other criminal enterprises, or should we wait? Does anybody have any other orders of business to take care of? Or what are we doing? Send them a thank you letter for getting into cosplay. I'm not sending those cops a thank you for anything other than incompetency. The day I send trust me, the day I send the cops a thank you card for any modus operandi in their current infrastructure is the day this earth crumbles. I am never thanking the cops for anything. Book. This book, in fact. We're at a very interesting chapter. It's, in fact, one of my favorite chapters in the book, actually. Now, this is when I really read this chapter and I was like, oh, in which I am Cabal in every social situation ever. It's my favorite one. What?
On my phone. It didn't set it down here.
Did you set your phone in here?
I don't think so, but I've looked everywhere else and Dave is currently calling it. I can't find it. It's not in here.
My associate has lost their phone. This is a Stein. Now, I do have an urn bottle. I also have an urn ashtray. So, this is actually my favorite chapter in this book because it's so awkward socially. And I hope you all enjoy it because if you've ever been the last one to get the hint, this is, you can relate to it. All right. Oh yeah, there's a little bit in here. But yeah, we're on chapter 9. We're starting chapter 9, where we left off last time. They said they caught the man who tried to kill Cabal. Herr Zorik was found with a injury on his wrist that corroborated the story, but the injury is suspicious. The questioner, Captain Sten, is suspicious, and Herr Zorik seems an unlikely criminal in the very least. And Cabal's a little bit suspicious. But they're still trying to figure out who exactly tried to murder Cabal and may be responsible for Daguerre's death. And in the meantime, their approach to Krenz is slowly approaching, and Cabal is very worried about how he's going to escape because Leonie Barrow is on the ship and is threatening to out him to the Krenz authorities and have him arrested. So there's also that. We have a myriad of problems. It's all very political and very irritating. So, we're going to start chapter 9, in which Cabal discovers the future of bar snacks and trifles with the nobility. There's a lot of conversation in this chapter. I just want to forewarn you. An hour or two later, the false documents, completed to his satisfaction, and with an unaccustomed song in his heart and a spring in his step, inspired by anticipation of the dirty deed to come, Cabal entered the ship's salon in something as close to a good mood as he was ever likely to experience. Usually, such mischief was not in his character, and it was partially the novelty as much as the sense of relief at having a workable plan that had raised his spirit so. He sat at the bar and slapped the open palm on the wooden counter to attract the attention of the barman. The barman came over, polishing an already pristine glass, and smiled at Cabal's evident good humor. "You seem in a very good mood, sir. What can I get for you?" "I am, thank you. I shall have—" He started and paused. He belatedly realized that he barely drank. Further, he also realized that the Mercarvians set a great deal of store by what a man put into his glass. Asking for the wrong thing might well plant suspicions in people's head. Sparkling water with a slice of lime, for example, would probably see him thrown overboard for crimes against masculinity. What was safe? He plunged for the manliest thing he could think of. "I shall have a beer, please." The barman looked at him with poorly concealed astonishment. "A beer, sir? You'd like a beer?" Cabal's heart sank. Why was it so damnably difficult to do anything around Mercarvians without some ridiculous social more or another causing complications? He could try backpedaling, but that would seem even more suspicious. He decided to plow ahead and try for mildly eccentric in the barman's eyes rather than highly dubious. "Yes, beer. Why, don't you have any?" The barman leaned forward confidentially, reaching under the bar as he did so. If that hand comes up holding a gun, thought Cabal, I'm sunk. If he's holding half a billiard cue, however, I'm in with a chance. "I knew you weren't stuck up, sir," he said quietly. "Lot of the civils, they look down on beer. Not good enough for them. But you, sir, you're all right." As the barman's hand rose from beneath the bar, Cabal was filled with a presentiment and a strange foreboding that he hadn't felt since the last time he'd watched the nightmare corpse of Raleigh rise, effulgent with the ineffable and beaded with fish, from the depths of the Pacific. In the barman's hand was the largest stein Cabal had ever seen. One could have drowned a sack full of kittens in it, and the drinker wouldn't even know about it until he reached the dregs. The barman held the stein beneath a beer pump and started to fill it. This took quite a while. When he was finally done, he carefully placed the stein before Cabal, winked conspiratorially, said, "I'll put it on your chit. Good health to you, sir," and went back to his duties, whistling jauntily. Cabal looked cautiously into the top. The beer, when he had excavated down through the dense tan head of foam with a pencil, he discovered to be as black as treacle and only slightly less viscous. He sucked experimentally at the droplets on the pencil and discovered the beer to be some form of porter, probably brewed from dark malts, fast-fermenting yeast, and slightly coagulated dragon's blood. It seemed likely the dragon was very drunk when it died. He noticed the barman looking at him, so he lifted the stein and took a good gulp, giving himself an undignified, if manly, foam mustache in the process. He wiped the mustache away with a handkerchief and nodded in a comradely way to the barman, who gave an answering nod and got back to his work. The gulp had barely touched the level of the beer. Cabal realized that he would have to engineer some way to be called in order to avoid drinking it all. If he had to finish the whole stein, he would probably be drunk for 2 days, and heaven alone knew what he might say in his cups. Hence the stein. It's a smoothie. Now you know. That said, it was actually a pleasant enough drink. It coated his throat all the way down in such an assured and thorough way that it felt as if it might last for some weeks. On the other hand, he had spent enough time in laboratories to know all about organic chemistry, and without resort to a hydrometer, he could still make a fairly accurate guess. From the faint scent of ethyl alcohol, and the beer had an alcoholic content somewhere in the region of 10%, possibly a few points more. Given the cavernous dimensions of the stein, this meant that there was enough alcohol in it to burn down a mid-sized bonded warehouse. Cabal was only an occasional drinker, and knew that he would be singing about goblins before he was even a quarter of his way through it. He was just thinking of ways that he could abandon it without having his essential Mercarvianness called into question, when a small bag made of greaseproof paper and filled with strange brown shavings appeared under his nose. Cabal looked sharply to his right to discover that the bag was being held by Bertram Harleman. He was smiling widely, apparent of the opinion that Cabal should be glad to have a collection of strange brown shavings appear beneath his nose. "I know what you're thinking," said Harleman. Cabal was confident that no, he didn't. Harleman continued, "You're thinking, that's a lot of beer to drink with no solid substance to complement it. What I could really do with is a lovely bar snack. But what? Beer nuts? Beer nuts are a bit tired, aren't they? Pretzels? You can choke on pretzels. Meat sticks? Bits always end up floating around your beer. No. You don't want any of that old rubbish." Cabal said nothing, but watched him levelly, not even slightly agog to hear what new rubbish Harleman was peddling. "You want?" Harleman nodded at the bag with an encouraging smile and shook it temptingly. "I'm not letting one of those anonymous objects pass my lips without a full description and ideally an analytical chemist report," said Cabal. Save yourself the trouble, sport," said Harleman, a man difficult to put off his stride. In contrast, Cabal had never been called sport a day in his life, and was inwardly reeling at such effrontery. "I can tell you exactly what you're getting here. 0 carbohydrates, 60% protein, 32% fat, all of which is unsaturated, mostly oleic acid, which is good for you, and most of the rest is stearic acid, which is harmless. Bit of a salt for flavor, but a little goes a long way. Go on, try one." He still had misgivings, but the breakdown of the snack's chemical composition sounded reassuring enough. In fact, it sounded vaguely familiar. He took one of the puffy brown shavings and chewed slowly on it. Actually, it wasn't bad, and he said so. You see? Harleman regarded the greaseproof paper bag as if it contained the Philosopher's Stone. "The bar snack of the future, those little babies." "What exactly are they?" asked Cabal, taking another. He'd heard Harleman use that phrase at the embarkation dinner. The bar snack of the future. But Cabal hadn't been paying much attention on that occasion. What had Harleman called them? Cabal suddenly remembered and stopped chewing. "Pork scratchings," said Harleman proudly. "Pork scratchings," echoed Cabal, his voice empty of expression. The name suggested that there were pork scratchings, there were pork itchings, and mental images of pigs with terrible skin diseases filled his mind. Had he just been chewing on hog scabs? "It's the skin, you see, basically cold crackling for the casual peckish market." "Pigskin," said Cabal, starting to chew again. That didn't sound so bad. After all, pork crackling and rinds were all part and parcel of eating pork. "What process to use to get rid of the hairs?" "Just burn 'em off. What do you think?" "You may have to do something about the name. But that's not bad at all, Herr Harleman." "Thank you, Herr Meisner. I respect your opinion. Please have the bag with my compliments." He waited until Cabal had taken it from him before saying in a casual tone, "You're something in the government, aren't you?" So that was it. A very minor cog in the great Mercarvian machine, Herr Harleman, specifically a docket clerk, first class, in the Department of Administration Coordination. If Harleman was disappointed with the rank, he didn't show it. The department, however, seemed grounds for optimism. "Administrative coordination, eh? Why, that means you have contact with all the other departments, including military logistics, doesn't it?" Cabal had no idea, but it seemed likely. "We have dealings with most other departments, that's true. Why do you ask? Those little wonders, he answered, gesturing at the bag in Cabal's hand. High-energy food, gives you pep right away when you need it. Perfect for troops on the march, eh? It's an interesting idea, certainly, said Cabal, for whom war was already such a ludicrous idea that the addition of thousands of soldiers marching off to butcher one another while chewing on slightly salted deep-fried chunks of pigskin added not a jot of absurdity. I could mention it to my superiors on my return. Harleman smiled patiently and shook his head. No, my boy, you're getting this all wrong. He sat on the next stool and then, to Cabal's profound discomfort, put his arm around his shoulder. Your bosses will just take all the credit. That's not the way to do it at all. You have to present it as a fait accompli, with your name all over it. Look, you can get it to SCF, can't you? Could he? Cabal tried to look non-committal while working hard to guess what the SCF could possibly be. To buy himself some time, he attempted to turn the conversation around. You seem to know a great deal about it, sir. Well, of course I do. It's my business, I'll not lie to you, Herr Meisner. A government contract for my scratchings would be a great boon for my business, and it could do you a lot of good, too. If this was the way Mercarvia usually operated, thought Cabal, no wonder it was a shambles. As for the SCF, civil services always seemed to be full of committees, and Harleman was after funding. Therefore, Cabal would guess that it was something along the lines of the special or even the secret committee for funding. When Harleman said he wanted Cabal, or more accurately Meisner, to get at the committee, it seemed evident that he meant for some palms to be greased. Well, I can't get at anyone while I'm aboard the Princess Hortense, sir. We shall have to talk about this in greater detail when we're both back in Krenz. Harleman frowned. Why wait? You can wire when we reach Senza. Bribery by telegram was a new one for Cabal, especially from a telegraph office in an unfriendly country. It's not quite that simple. I'm involved in agricultural remittances. I can't just telegraph them out of the blue like that. Them? Harleman looked at him very closely, and Cabal realized he may have made a serious error. He was saved by Miss Ambersley, who appeared at his elbow like an English genie, which is to say suddenly, but without a lot of flash and smoke and bother. Excuse me, gentlemen, she said. Herr Meisner, Lady Ninika wonders if we might have the pleasure of your company. The force of Cabal's desire for any escape from Harleman might in a different man have manifested itself in bear-hugging and kissing Miss Ambersley before conducting her in an impromptu polka around the salon. In Cabal, this impulse was ruthlessly subjugated while he inclined his head in a curt nod. I should be delighted, Fräulein. He rose and bowed to Harleman. If you would excuse me, mein Herr? Harleman nodded and, somewhat to Cabal's surprise, smiled in a warm and fraternal manner. No problem, old mate. My best wishes to her ladyship. He stood, bowed, and turned to go, but as he turned, he caught Cabal's eye and very deliberately winked. Then he was gone, taking his pork scratchings with him. Inwardly perturbed by Harleman's behavior, Cabal took his drink and walked to go through the pleasantries with Lady Ninika. As they sat, he noticed Miss Ambersley regarding the stein with icy disapproval. Cabal could almost have thanked her for it, because it gave him an excuse to have it taken away and replaced by tea and cakes. Cabal had little time for the English way of life, usually, or, indeed, anybody else's way of life, but at some point he had developed a weakness for afternoon tea, and the pleasure he expressed when the tray arrived was entirely genuine. I'll be mother, said Miss Ambersley, taking up the teapot. Lady Ninika caught Cabal's eye and smiled slightly at the comment. Cabal took her meaning. This seemed likely to be the only way the censorious Miss Ambersley would ever be a mother, unless she unexpectedly entered a convent. Oh yeah, here we go. Cabal took his tea with lemon and no sugar and confined himself to a yellow French fancy. They chatted politely enough about the weather, the ship, the view, and Cabal was just beginning to think that he was on safe ground when Lady Ninika said, I hear you're involved in the investigation, and to poor Mr. de Guer's disappearance. Isn't that so, Herr Meisner? Miss Ambersley tutted. Really, Ophelia, I'm sure we don't want to hear about such a horrid event. She turned to Cabal. I'm sure I shan't sleep a wink tonight, and as for poor Ophelia, she has trouble sleeping at the best of times. You must not excite her with such talk. You have trouble sleeping? Cabal asked Lady Ninica. You should ask the ship's doctor for a sleeping draught. She did, cut in Miss Ambersley, as Lady Ninica was drawing breath to reply. But it's not good for you to take them too much, my dear. You cannot depend on chemicals. She turned earnestly to Cabal. You're an educated man, Herr Meisner. You tell her it simply isn't wise to depend on chemicals. Cabals, whose work involved a large quantity of chemicals, resisted the desire to highlight Miss Ambersley's appalling ignorance of scientific matters by telling her that she was entirely constructed from chemicals, and that she ate chemicals, drank chemicals, breathed chemicals, and this was all completely natural. Instead, he said, Insomnia can be a terrible burden on your well-being, my lady, both physiologically and psychically. Medication is all very well in the short term, but you should try to discover the root of it and deal with it. That said, he thought she looked remarkably well. It was probably the glamour that women create with paints and powders, but she didn't look like somebody who went without regular rest. In vulgar terms, she was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He briefly entertained the idea that she might be depending on some much less innocent chemical than a mild sedative, but it didn't sit well with her behavior or appearance. She didn't seem to be exhibiting any of the telltale associated with common stimulants. Thank you, Herr Meisner. I truly appreciate your concern. May you talk of your investigation, though? It seems very interesting. Speaking quickly to head off the interruption that Miss Ambersley had ready in the slips, Cabal said, I really cannot speak of the investigation, Lady Ninica. You understand, of course, it would prove damaging to any findings if they were to be publicized prematurely. Oh, I wouldn't tell a soul, she replied, the very picture of innocent propriety, although the way she laid her hand upon her décolletage as she spoke could just as easily have been due to coquettishness as to expressiveness. I am the very epitome of discretion. Herr Meisner has made it quite plain that he cannot discuss such things, my dear, persisted Miss Ambersley, in her mind subjects suitable for civilized discussion frolicked happily in a great green pasture of loveliness, surrounded by a ha-ha filled with spikes and acid, beyond which lay the frightful, violent death and suicide, were very much part of this congregation of the unspeakable, and for every word spoken on such subjects, an angel shed a tear, or a fairy died, or a bunny was blinded. Miss Ambersley, who was fond of angels, fairies, and bunnies, despite having only met the latter, was therefore very keen to confine her conversation to the lovely pasture. Lady Ninica was not. Well, there must be some aspect you can explain to me, she said to Cabal. Your methods, your strategy, for getting to the bottom of all this. He was flattered that she thought that there was any strategy involved in the investigation at all, given that the only solid piece of evidence was an injury sustained during a murder attempt. If real police officers relied on such methods, precious few would ever draw their pensions. My lady, you make too much of my humble abilities. I am no detective. I am merely an instrument of the state attempting in my poor way to help the captain find the truth. Can't you see that he doesn't want to talk about it, Ophelia? Come now, let us speak of happier things. Cabal was beginning to find that Miss Ambersley's shrill interjections grated on his nerves. If he had been himself, he would have said as much, but Gerhard Meisner, or at least his rendition of Gerhard Meisner, was a more patient man. His true mind flickered on his face for a second, but he brought it under control with a steely flex of his will. It seemed that Ninica shared his opinion, though, as the very next moment she said, Oh, for pity's sake, Miss Ambersley, can't you see that every time the poor man tries to say something, you tell him that we don't wish to hear it? Of course he's keeping quiet. He's being polite. Miss Ambersley was momentarily speechless. Only for a moment, though. "Well," she said. "Well, I never!" Which was probably true. She rose to her feet and, speaking in short bursts colored with repressed emotion, said, "I see my company is not appreciated here. I'm very sorry. I shall take myself away, Herr Meisner." Cabal, who had also risen to his feet, nodded and muttered in a fair impersonation of an embarrassed man. Miss Ambersley turned to Ninica. "My lady," and then, like a schooner, swept along on winds of decorum, she walked away to the other side of the salon and sat alone. Cabal sat down again. "That's even more embarrassing," he said to Lady Ninica. "I thought she was going to leave, but she's just sitting there watching us." Lady Ninica didn't even deign to look, settling back into her chair. "She has no choice. She's not just my companion, she's my chaperone. My father hired her to keep an eye on me." She looked at Cabal over her teacup as she took a sip. "She's very conscientious." Abruptly, and with the sensation of being the last one in the theater to get the joke, Cabal realized that Lady Ninica was not so much interested in the progress of the investigation as in the investigator. The French fancy turned to ashes in his mouth. The last thing he needed was some new complication in his life, a life that was already built up almost entirely of complications. Quite apart from the necromancy, the assumed identity, the mysterious disappearance, the attempted murder, and the Mercarvian noble after his neck, he now had another Mercarvian noble after one or more other parts of his anatomy. Or possibly not. While he knew he was presentable enough, his vanity was not physical, and he had never noticed women swooning in his path before. Perhaps she was just one of those strange souls who derived a sordid, vicarious excitement from crime and death, the sort of young woman he had observed attending public executions, while he himself had been there to spread bribes and to secure the cadaver as fresh experimental material. He found this thought a great relief. The idea that she might derive some perverse pleasure from tales of vile crime and ugly death rather than something more amatory involving him was deeply reassuring. It was one less complication to worry about, and for that he was very grateful. For her part, Lady Ninica was disappointed when Herr Meisner's eyes widened with surprise when she finally dropped a hint broad enough for the insensitive nincompoop to detect, but then he seemed to relax and she knew that they had an understanding. She wasn't sure what she found attractive about him. Physically, he was good enough, if not extraordinary. She thought it might be those eyes. Those blue-gray, intelligent eyes behind which an earnest, if unenterprising mind whirled with whatever it was that civil servants found to dwell upon. Yet he had defied expectations to go around exploring in the middle of the night, and when attacked had defended himself successfully. There was more to Herr Meisner than met the eye, and Lady Ophelia Ninica intended to split him open like an oyster to discover what lay within. And so, with the lines drawn, albeit on entirely different battlefields, the conversation continued. "Is it true that somebody tried to kill you last night?" she asked, eyes wide and expectant. Cabal winced inwardly. He knew it had probably been a vain hope that at least some facts of the case would remain confidential, especially after the general fussing over him that morning, but that hadn't stopped him from hoping. "Where did you hear that?" "On a ship with only a few people aboard. If I hadn't heard about it, that would have been the marvel. So, is it true then?" "Yes," admitted Cabal, sensing that to squirm any further would be pointless as well as undignified, and told her the story, excepting the detail of the assailant's wounded wrist. Lady Ninica hung on his every word, and Cabal interpreted this as an unhealthy appetite for the lurid. At least, he did at first, but as the tale wound to its conclusion, it occurred to him that the last person who had shown such a close interest in this little adventure, Captain Sten excluded, as it was his job to be interested, was Casson. On that occasion, Cabal had been quick to suspect the irksome little man of being an agent of some hue. What, he wondered, was rationally preventing him from suspecting the same of Orphelia Ninica? Nothing, neither her sex nor her title, precluded her in the slightest. Then again, he had only the most vague grounds to suspect Casson. So was fearing the same of Ninica merely rational caution or the shallows of paranoia? Paranoia is an occupational hazard common amongst necromancers. When it is, in fact, true that the whole world is out to get you, one has to set the hurdle of unreasonable fears that much higher. Generally, necromancers discover quite early in their careers, at least the ones that manage to last past quite early in their careers, that all threats, no matter how nebulous, should be acted upon. In populated areas, this is patently impractical, as every single person who comes within a mile of a necromancer may mean him harm. Thus, they move away from cities and towns and even villages, and set up on barren mountain tops or reclaimed chthonic subterranean redoubts, or, as in Cabal's case, a nice 3-story townhouse moved by methods that do not concern us here from the middle of a respectable suburban terrace and placed, front garden and backyard intact, on a grassy hillside miles from anyone. There he was pleased to conduct experiments that would have made Victor Frankenstein wrinkle his nose, safely away from prying eyes, and there he dearly wished he were now, feet up in front of the open fire, drinking tea and reading the Principia Necromantica. That he was doing none of these things, apart from drinking tea, distressed him. The realization that his own sense of nurtured and measured paranoia was now so sensitive as to be useless distressed him too. He came to the end of his narrative and reached for the teapot. Lady Ninica was positively aflutter. "You brave man," she said, her face full of hero worship. She leaned forward as she spoke, and Cabal was again struck by how very cleverly her wardrobe was cut. In this case, a short jacket offset the modish neckline of the dress to create an overall effect of virginal sensuality. He had no idea where he stood with her. Their relative positions were entirely at her whim. It was all very confusing for a man who was much happier at a dissection slab than at a soiree. "It was nothing, really." He had meant it as a statement. There is nothing intrinsically brave about fighting for your life. It was only after he said it that he realized how heroically modest it sounded, and the fact that he had said it without affectation had inadvertently served only to compound the effect. "Of course it was," said Ninica. "In such a situation, I should have been frozen with fear. You are so much more capable than I, Herr Meisner." Cabal briefly considered telling her that it would have been the slipstream freezing her, but that snapped a vision of her dangling by one hand in Meisner's dreadful silk gown, which looked a lot better on her, and then there was the detail of the gown falling open. The surface effect of these thoughts was to make the opening of the sentence he was about to make dribble to an untidy halt and leave him gawping as if he had just remembered something important. "Have you remembered something important?" she asked. He felt vaguely ashamed, as if she'd read his mind. No, I was just reliving the events of last night. It was exciting? Traumatic, I was going to say. But exciting, yes, it was that, I suppose." Lady Ninica leaned back in her chair and regarded him. She didn't quite fling herself around and abandon and pant animalistically, but a sense of flinging and panting still pervaded her far more than conservative posture and attitude. In fact, to an uninvolved bystander, she would have seemed the very model of decorum and respectability. Cabal wasn't sure how she was doing it, but he was sure she was doing something. This was an entirely new field of human endeavor for which he had no familiarity and no understanding. He did, however, have the distinct impression that he was enjoying it. It made him feel warm and important in a way that had never especially occurred or seemed pertinent to him before. He was just going to explain in the most roundabout and circumspect way that he had actually been very brave and it had actually been very exciting when Leonie Barrow appeared at his elbow and said, "Lady Ninica, how delightful!" She sat down with them without being invited and started talking about the theater and Krenz. Considering that he'd been doing most of the talking until then, Lady Ninika seemed accountably put off her stride. She smiled politely, but barely responded to the new subject of conversation at all, and the polite smile quickly became forced, as if masking some other emotion that was trying to rear its head. Finally, she feigned surprise at the time, made her apologies, and left the salon with the wretched Miss Ambersley scurrying along in her wake. As soon as she had gone, Leonie stopped her monologue and smiled broadly, and not without some malevolence. "What," said Cabal somewhat testily, "is going on? What was all that about?" "Did she ask you about what happened last night?" "Yes, but she's hardly the first one to do that." "Ah, but did she ask any questions, or just listen very closely?" "She just listened." "What are you getting at?" "Did she congratulate you on how you handled things?" Cabal nodded, still confused. "Did she lean forward a lot, like this?" She demonstrated, and Cabal had to admit that it was a good impersonation. "Did she touch you lightly on the knee at any point?" "No. Well, she was working up to it." Cabal looked at her, his bafflement lifting. "A witch?" he said, lowering his voice. It wasn't too surprising, now he stopped to consider it. The upper classes were the embodiment of discretion, and he had certainly heard of members of the nobility who dabbled in practices that would get a commoner drowned in the village pond by her neighbors. "She's a witch?" She needed some sort of direct contact to cast a spell. But why me? What was she after? He noticed that Miss Barrow's shoulders were shuddering with the effort of holding in her laughter. This did nothing to improve his mood. When she managed to damp down her hilarity a little, she said, "For a clever man, you can be such an idiot. She's no witch, not the way you mean it anyway." She leaned forward and gestured him closer. "She was seducing you, you blockhead," she whispered, and then sat back, unable to contain her laughter anymore. Cabal wasn't at all sure he'd heard correctly. He had rationally discounted that possibility, hadn't he? Hadn't he? "She was what?" Miss Barrows brought herself up rapidly, back under control, sobering up with a deep breath. "You heard me, and it's excellent." And that's the end of chapter 9. That's my favorite one. Because when I first read it, I also was like, "No, she's not. This is some other political game. Thank you. Oh, it's a kitten. Thank you." I was like, this is some other political game. We're in a political gambit. This is so... I had already sort of figured out actually what had happened in the book. Like, if you're trying to figure out who done it, I had already sort of worked it out in my head to this point, and I thought she was part of it. And I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read it, but I'm kind of right. Anyway, the point was that I was on an entirely different tack. I was going through, like, a political coup in my brain where, like, the entire ship is part of a conspiracy. I didn't see that either. And I was like... And I was talking to someone else at one point about the plot of this book, and they were like, "Yeah, that tracks for you." And because I had mentioned that chapter where I was like, and he didn't know that she was hitting on him the whole time. And then someone was like, "Yeah, that tracks for you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they were like, "Well, you don't ever notice when anyone's hitting on you, ever, at any time, at any point, ever." And I was like, "I think I would notice." And they were like, "Trust me, no you don't." And I relate to that so much, so hard. I am Cabal in that entire chapter. I'm like, what's going on? People trying to kill me? What's happening? I once answered my door to unexpected people, and I was like, "Is this a plot to murder me?" And they were like, "No." I've literally been that person, that weird paranoid person that is just very sure I'm going to be murdered at any given point. my brain will always go to the worst place. And I don't mean like I mean, the other day I was riding passenger in the car with my partner of 9 years, and he was trying to avoid a traffic jam, so we went on like this off-road, and I was like, this is it, this is where he kills me. I was like, he's been here for 9 years, I don't think he would do that. I was like, no, the circumstances are too near to miss. And why do I do that? I'm Cabal. In any social situation, I'm like, this would be a great way to get killed today. So I relate to that chapter probably the most. Well, I gotta tell you, you didn't miss much. You just missed a really awkward, uncomfortable conversation and some tea. Yeah, apparently you picked a great time, because we're about to do, who wants to hear my partner rant about random things? Normally I'm dressed as Shinzo, and they're normally Denki, but we can still do Denki's Rant Corner if you want to hear Denki rant about an unknown topic. I don't even know what they're going to do. I'm just like, you want to come in and rant on my live? And they're like, yeah, and I didn't even quiz them on what they were going to do, so this could be highly inappropriate. It could be the most hilarious thing ever. Okay, hold on. I'm going to go get Denki, and I'll be right back. Oh, no. I'm going to rip this mic out. All right. We're ready for your rant. Oh. You don't have it?
No, what should I write about?
And you can rant about the last episode of Euphoria if you want. Oh my god. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm surprised that didn't hit you first.
I forgot.
Alright.
Don't touch my chicken.
And we're back.
Hey guys.
Did you hear that? Did you hear me say that?
No, yeah, I forgot that we were doing this. I have no concept of time. And I made chicken. So, today's rant. Who watches Euphoria? And has anyone in the chat not watched last episode? Because I don't want to spoil it for you. Like, I'm serious. If you do not want last episode Euphoria spoilers, let me know, like, now in the chat.
Finn, you don't count.
If you're not going to watch it, that's fine. You can hang out.
Yes, ain't caught up. Okay, they don't plan on watching it.
Okay, I'm giving everyone, like, a few more seconds just to be like, wait, don't spoil it for me.
Or to dip out if you don't want it. You can dip out and come back in a few minutes.
Yeah. I don't want to be that asshole. But honestly, I feel like I'm not going to be the one that spoils it. It's been everywhere. All right, cool. We're going to talk about it because this shit was fucking nuts for no reason. Also, first complaint. Somebody needs to get Sam Levinson on the phone, because why the fuck can you not finish a single storyline ever? Why not? Like, there's so many, and we're gonna have to wait 2 years for the next episode. So I don't fucking understand what you thought you were doing when you gave us that little fucking Breakfast Club and extra with the voiceover at the end. This is fucking Euphoria. Like, what do you mean? Oh, and I stayed sober for the rest of the school. Nobody gives a fuck. What, you owe this lady $10,000 for a fucking suitcase full of drugs. I probably shouldn't have said that on live.
It's fine.
But you owe this woman all this money, and now you're fucking just, and I stayed sober. Fucking who cares? She threatened to trafficking you. She threatened to sell your person. What do you mean? What do you mean? That's, okay. And second of all, Elliot's fucking little 4 minutes of acoustic guitar and sad boy with a face tattoo? Suck my dick. I'm so fucking, what the fuck? Like, you could have been giving us 4 more minutes of Maddie whooping Cassie's ass. But no. You cut away from that for Elliot to sing a song.
This is even better for me. I've never watched the show and I have no context for this.
I'm so upset. And yes, whoever said 2 years, yeah, it's going to be 2024 is when the next season's coming out. Because Zendaya, Queen, no shade, literally is booked filming. So we're not going to get anything. Which is half the reason that they fucking unalived my boy. And this is the big spoiler, so I hope everyone's cool. He deserved better. He deserved so much better. And, like, I get why they killed him off. Like, he's going to be on... the actor that played Ashtray is going to be on Umbrella Academy. So that's cool. And he's also, like, an Olympic-level boxer, which is wild, because he's, like, a whole child. And, like, that's fucking insane to me. And he went out like a real one, like...
As opposed to a half-child.
I mean, yeah, like, that's like a teenager. A whole child. I was gonna cry for a second. It really hurt my heart. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm sure you've seen people talk about it. A partial child. I'm sure you've seen people talk about it. Euphoria. Everybody fucking was talking about it. And I randomly watched the first season last year because I was like, fuck it. Everybody's talking about this show. And then I watched the season as it came out. And every episode was so fucking wild. From the beginning to the fucking end. Like, it was just so intense. For no reason. And, like, then it turned out to be just the whole season was Cassie breasting around boobily for no reason. Like, that was it. Sam Levinson's put that girl's boobs on TV every fucking week for 8 weeks.
I like how you used both breast and boob as both a verb and an adjective, but not a noun.
She did. That's all. And, like, the actress Sydney is gorgeous. Like, I'm not,
breasting boobily.
I'm not upset at her about it.
That wasn't...
But why? Like, there was so much that's just, like... And there were so many plotlines from season 1 that never came... Like, we never even got the closure on the whole fucking Nate situation. And fucking Nate Jacobs. Oh, my God. If I ever see the actor that plays Nate Jacobs, I'm going to jail. He does it too well. He does it too fucking well. How do you play a psychopath that well? Like, I'm legitimately, like, it gave me, like, PTSD. And I wasn't even going through it. Like, I was just watching. And you know what? Fucking Maddie deserves better. For all the shit that he put her through. And then he fucked her best friend. Like a psycho. I did like at the end when she's like, Nate just broke up with me. Because fuck you, Cassie. And Maddie's just like, oh, don't worry. This is just the beginning. Because when he tried to break up with her, that's when he tried to kill her. So it's just like, fuck yeah. That's what you get, bitch. And, like, we didn't even get to see the fight. But, like, we saw the aftermath. But I don't want to just see Cassie sitting there crying with a bloody nose. I want to see her beat her fucking ass. No, also, Joffrey from Game of Thrones is the fucking worst. It's up there with me. He played the character too well, and I think he deserves to have a couple less teeth for that.
He deserves to have extensive dental work done.
He can afford it. I'm sure Sam Levinson plays well. He can't fucking... Thank you! We had to see her puke in the hot tub! We should have seen the fucking... Oh my god! Why? We had to deal with her sobbing and throwing up, literally, for an entire episode, but we can't get fucking 5 minutes of fucking Maddie just dog walking her down the fucking hallway? That's what we all wanted. That's what we all fucking wanted. And it's fucking ridiculous. And then the emotional damage in the middle with fucking... We don't know. We get fucking Lexi and Rue sitting there talking about the play. Why isn't Lexi and Rue sitting there talking about how is Fezco? How is my friend that got fucking shot? How is Fez? You fucking lead up Fexy for a whole season that I am, like, legitimately in love with this couple. I would die for Angus Cloud, the actor. But you can't give us a 3-second wrap-up about how he's doing now? Bullshit. So does she just not know that that wasn't important? We had to cry about our daddy issues, but we can't talk about our actual friend who got shot? No. Bullshit. Bullshit. It is very much intense drama at all times. Skins walked so Euphoria could run. I really was so emotionally damaged. I cried for 20 minutes of the episode. For Sam Levinson owes me money. I sat through this for fucking...
Seek reparations from...
I should, because that was such bullshit. And now you're going to make me wait 2 years? I'm probably not even going to give a shit in 2 years. Do you know what I'm going to be into in 2 years? No, me neither. I just ride the serotonin. But this is bullshit. Everything, he made so many symbols and allegories and set up all these amazing plot lines, and then at the end was just fuck this. Fuck you. Fuck everyone on TikTok with your theories. Nothing matters. It doesn't matter why Maddie's fucking boss was spying on her with a camera.
The game's made up and the points don't matter.
The game is made up and fucking the points don't matter. Because we're never going to know what Lori's going to do about the fact that you own her $15,000 and your mom flushed everything. We're never going to know about fucking... I mean, what was even on that thing that sent Cal to jail? I'm assuming the disc. So did Nate keep a copy of the fucking film? It's fucking bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. And Lexi's play was good. I don't know. I'm tired now. I think I'm done. I think the rant's over now.
You're tired?
I hope y'all enjoyed those, because I need a nap.
I just ride the serotonin Denki 2022.
Literally, that's all I've ever done.
I mean, it's over
now. That was the last episode of the season. I can pick a show and we can do that though. That's for sure.
Maybe I should have recorded
they got this every Sunday night.
I would come home from work and no lie, I would sit down and they'd be like, "So Euphoria was stupid this week." And I was just
every week.
Look, I get you're really into it. I don't know who these people are, so I'm not really going to be able to give you much. And they were like, "Just listen to me." And then they go off for about 10 to 15 minutes, and I was like, this sounds stressful. This sounds
it's really stressful.
A lot. And then I'd just be like, who's Nate again? Who? What? I thought he was the other guy. And they were like, no. That was this guy. And then they go on a rant about him.
Yeah. I'm so glad you guys enjoy my rants. This is one of my favorite things to do is complain. So I'm really good at it. Plus, I'm descriptive.
Also,
I also have very strong feelings about very small things.
Whoever said it's like when you get in the car and your friend is already halfway through a podcast, almost every single one of their rants feels like that internally. Yeah. There are only a few times where I even understand what's going on. Occasionally I'll be like, yes, I know everything about this topic, go ahead. But most of the time I'm like, they'll just bust up in here and be like, cave divers, the problem is. And I'm
okay. Well, I already know what next week's rant's going to be about because since you mentioned it, I've been watching this series that's called Divers React. No. And YouTube plugging them. I don't know. They're really great.
Next week, cave divers.
This guy has been trying to scuba dive in Chernobyl.
Oh, we gotta save it for next week.
I'm just giving him a teaser.
Gotta spoil it. Okay, here's the teaser.
Spoil it. That's what the subject is gonna be. How I feel about these guys scuba diving in Chernobyl, and how also I think cave diving is stupid. So there you go. That's next week. Stay tuned.
So yeah, next week, cave divers in Chernobyl.
Yep.
Best day of the week is Tuesday.
Yeah, you get your Johannes, and then you get random rant from person off screen. Because I look like ass, and I'm not coming on the screen. My dog had a doggy play day today, and he did really good, and I'm tired.
Oh.
So I'm going to go eat my chicken nuggets now.
They're going to go eat their chicken nuggets now.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much from detouring from your chicken nuggets to come and speak to the people.
Always.
They love you.
I love the people. Anything I can do to make the people happy, I'm always happy to oblige.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that interlude. That is the comedic relief halfway through the book about murder and crimes against God, nature, and humanity for a little comedic relief, because Denki's really funny. Even when they have that peculiar ability to be extraordinarily hilarious, even though you have no idea what they're talking about. I don't know how they do it. It's a gift. So I hope you enjoyed that. I singularly have no idea I still don't even know what Euphoria is about. Zendaya does drugs? I still don't know. And I've heard everything about it. And honestly, I'd like to keep it that way, because out of context is sometimes even funnier, in my opinion, for me not knowing what's happening. That's about it. All right, I'll take your word for it. Whenever I say that, I'm like, Zendaya does a lot of drugs, and Denki's like, that's right. No, you got it. And I'm like, do I? Because I feel like I still don't, but all right. If you say so, I'll trust you. And there you have it. We still have chapter 10 to get through, but I think, was there something that I missed a while back? I always feel like I missed something. I try and check while I'm doing it, but I can't. Is everybody still doing good? Finn, are you still here? I saw you dropped out and you came back in. Are you good? Were you insulted? Yeah. Dinner is now done. Good. Good, okay. Yes, you were. It's par. That's on point. That tracks. I saw you dipped out and I was like, is it their phone or was it because they were offended? And I don't know, but we're about to start chapter 10, unless anybody has any other course of business that they wish to discuss. Refilled and nebulizers, good. You were very offended. Excellent. Not about you being offended. Well, maybe. I don't know. Maybe Finn needs to get knocked down a peg. Just a little bit. You're too high up on the totem pole. Be harassing people on the internet all the time, or so I've heard. A right menace to society, or so I've heard. I'm joking, of course. Smoothie acquired and ready. Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and get to it then, if everybody is ready. Also, if you have oh, thank you. You've been nice today. One, that is only one day. Two, show me the proof. Is there proof you've been nice? What have you done that's nice today? Or have you just been neutral and you consider that nice because most of your time is spent being a menace? Have you just done nothing today, or did you do something actually nice? What did you do? You know what? Drop it in the secret place. You know what? And everybody else, if you are part of the place where we talk about things, first rule about Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. But if you're in it and you're on it and you want to do so, and you would like perhaps to hear Denki's opinion on some things, we can maybe have a recommendation corner for topics of Denki to rant about, if you would be interested in such. They will be judged at Denki's discretion on how important the topic is and how much they feel a lot of emotions about it. So it's completely up to their discretion. I'm not going to make them do anything. But if you would like to put that forth, we can perhaps do that in the place where we talk about things. Neutral today, at least. Okay. I can believe neutral. I can believe that. All right. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start chapter 10. And drop your suggestions in the place where we talk about things. Not now, later. If my phone goes off with a bunch of notifications right now about recommendations, don't make my phone blow up while we're on live. It's gonna save the battery. Don't. Anyway, you were absolutely not neutral today. Good to know. I also believe that of you. I believe every single one of you is capable of... Well, I don't... A select few of you. Let's put it that way. Thorny, Finn, Swiftblood are the three I'm most concerned about. And also a couple other ones that I won't name specifically because I'm suspicious of them because of how silent they are. If you pay me, I'm nice. To have all of your motivations so securely tied to finances means that anyone can buy you. Good to know. I might need a hitman later, but science is the best. Silence is the best? Yes. You were a gentleman today? You know what? I could believe that of you. So you say that I'm a... Yes, all the way up until you aren't, Swiftblood, and we both know that. I was absolutely neutral during daylight hours. During daylight being the key phrase there. I know how late you stay up. Or how early you stay up, I should say. And I know exactly how many that you've been purporting to hunt for sport. So, I'll believe it when I see it. Neutral indeed. You know what? No, I am judging everyone. Yes, you know what? I am. Hold on. I am judging everyone. I was going to try and defend myself, but no. I am. No. I spent too long feeling bad about this. And that's just the way I am as a person, and I never once said that I was a good person. If you chose to believe that, that is at your own discretion and folly, because I am actually terrible. I will go ahead and stand by this. I'm not going to say I'm neutral a day in my life. Normally, I'm terrible, and I know I'm terrible. But does that give me the recognition, because terrible recognizes terribler when it sees it. And I know all of you. I've seen you on the daily. I've read your messages. Even though I don't speak a lot of the time, I know what's being had in those voice chats. I know what's going on. I see the writing on the wall, and I know what you did. There's someone out there that's crossed me, and you know exactly what you did. Am I going to name you? No. But do I know what you did? Absolutely. Am I upset? Not so much anymore. Disappointed? Absolutely. And if you're looking back on things right now and you're thinking, ooh, maybe that was a bad decision. Perhaps it was. Perhaps it was. Because I know what you did. And you had no recourse to do that. I can handle my own problems, and I don't need your assistance. Regardless of if you feel like I need some white-knighted savior to run in and challenge everybody that seems to be slighting me or going against my direct wishes, doesn't mean that you have to, especially when I did not direct you to. Oh, you should be. You should be. Because it wasn't you. But they know. You know, don't you? Aren't you worried? Are you worried? And you know what I think is so much worse than being actively punished is being passively punished. Where you know you've done something wrong and you're fairly sure that the person you've done wrong now knows that you've done wrong, but they've not acted upon it in any way. But you're sure that they know. They've dropped hints. They've said some things that led you to believe that, oh, they've now discovered what you've done and refuse to act upon it. So then you stew and you sit there and you think about the recourse that's eventually going to ensue, right? And isn't that pit in your stomach so much worse than the actual retribution when the time comes? Sitting in that feeling, waiting. That got dark, didn't it? Are you all worried now? Do you all feel the anxiety? It's in the name. I'm anxious, Undertaker. Right? You sort of want to know what happened? A lot of people do, apparently. Yeah, really don't. I would recommend not doing that. Not the first time I've heard that one. Man, if I had a nickel. Anyway. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So, everyone's talking about their villain era starting. I feel like I've lived in my villain era my entire life. Everyone's always treated me like a villain, and I am starting to lean into it, embracing it, but I feel like I've always lived in it. Thank you. I'm going to tweak this cosplay a bit, but I am not hating it. It's Johannes Cabal. And if you don't know who that is, we're reading it actively every Tuesday at 8 p.m. If this is your first time here, you're going to be so confused. Because we're on the second book, chapter 10, which we're about to read. No, it's just that's the trend right now. On TikTok, everybody's like, the start of my villain era. I'm like, you all are starting? 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 You get to read after being read? Yes, we do. Anyway, for everyone who's confused, I'm Johannes Cabal. We're reading Johannes Cabal the Detective. I'm cosplaying as the character from a series of books that we've been reading every Tuesday at 8. We read about 2 chapters a session, and we're going to read some more. You get read to after you've been read. And then Denki reads some nameless topic to filth also. This week it was the last episode of Euphoria. If you missed it, I'm terribly sorry, but this will be up on the YouTube, which is also a link in the description. And if you'd like to listen to all the other chapters of the first book and also the second one, they're all on the YouTube as well. All these recordings go on YouTube. So you can go back and listen to them if you want to know the plot of what's going on. If you don't, that's fine. You can stay here and be confused, or you can go about your business and keep scrolling. That's your decision. Yeah, Denki comes on and rants about something. Denki. They're fairly good at it. They've been honing it to a fine art form for about 29 years, so they should be. But we're going to read chapter 10. Is everybody ready? Has everybody's anxiety subsided that I've stopped being irrationally peeved? Two. Good, good. No, it hasn't. Oh. I'm so sorry, Finn, to hear that. Are you ready? Good. Chapter 10, in which the light of truth is encircled by darkness. Science and mathematics are wonderful things. They cut like an arc light of truth through the cobweb depths of supposition, superstition, instinct, and guile. For the scientific mind, it can sometimes become too easy to ignore these thin, insubstantial threads as irrelevant, but this can be a serious mistake. But why? He asked her as they dined together that evening, his animosity towards her erased by the realization that in matters of social interplay he was as innocent as a babe in the woods. What possible reason could she have to want to... why? Why? Miss Sparrow paused, and cutting a morsel from her Spanish omelet, her first victory in the search for something Mercarvian chefs wouldn't undercook. She was about to tell him, but then decided that she would be interested in learning a little more about this huge and unexpected area of Cabal's ignorance. Why do you think? Well, she wants something. Clearly, she said, a little archly. But what? Money? Information? She's not really a Sensen agent, is she? Money? She's an aristocrat who sends more on an everyday dress than you, Herr Meisner, would see in your monthly pay packet. I really don't think she's after your money. Information? Bloody hell, you've seen agents everywhere. I strongly doubt that she represents anybody's interests other than her own. No, you're putting far too much thought into this. It's all much simpler. Our Lady Ninika has a hobby. Whenever she sees a man who interests her in a certain way, she isn't happy until that man has joined her for an evening of sport. It was obvious from Cabal's face that he was working down a list of possible sports. The slight expression of consternation indicated that he had arrived at cricket. Leonie decided to put him out of his misery. She's a bike, a tart, a slut. She'll be buried in a Y-shaped coffin, a baggage, a hussy. She's the good time that was had by all, a wanton floozy. She looked closely at him, but he still seemed to be stuck on cricket. A nymphomaniac. The use of a technical term shook him from his paralysis. Realization flooded his face, and a silent, "Oh!" filled his mouth. Not that she is, of course, well, maybe the last one, but all the other terms, the ugly ones, were invented by men. A man sleeps around, he's just being a man. Not really very fair, is it? Do shut your mouth. You'll catch flies sitting there like that. Cabal shut his mouth somewhat shamefacedly. He'd been prepared to consider almost any eventuality except the one that was evidently true. In his defense, it was a situation entirely alien to him. He could honestly say he'd never had an elegant and attractive woman of high breeding set her cap for him in this fashion. In fact, he'd never had any woman of any demeanor, appearance, or birth set her cap for him in this fashion. He was not unattractive, and his attention to detail extended to how he presented himself, so it was not at first glance so odd that he should be in such a situation. In the normal run of things, however, he kept himself fastidiously to himself, and furthermore, usually carried a faint scent of formaldehyde around with him, which had the effect of depressing any amorous intent by any woman with a working nose. The combination of his long absence from a laboratory, the stolen clothing, and the enforced socializing had conspired to place him neatly in the sights of Lady Ninika, and he had not realized it for a second. So let me see if I understand this. You're saying that I was intended to be a diverting interval for her ladyship to lighten a dull voyage? What's the matter with her? Aren't a death and an attempted murder enough to keep the woman amused? Leonie shook her head as she finished her omelet. No, you don't see the whole picture here at all. Yes, you were supposed to be a diverting interval, but note the indefinite article. Cabal frowned. There was supposed to be somebody else. Wrong again. There was somebody else. Nothing supposed about it. She smiled, not altogether charitably. Sorry, sweetheart, but you weren't her first choice. Cabal fumed. Just because you're in a position that currently allows you the liberty of taunting me, you would be ill-advised to actually do so. Nor should you present a lot of half-formed conjecture as somehow significant when it likely has no more importance than those missing candelabras at breakfast that... Oh. He looked around and noticed that every table now carried one. Quickly dropping the subject, he said, You're being obscure for no better reason than your own amusement, just like your magical appearance this afternoon when I was talking to her ladyship. You can be so very... He paused, a sudden thought filling him first with realization, then dismay, and then anger. You knew this was going to happen. Ah, said Miss Barrow, and took a sip of wine. You were lurking around somewhere, waiting for this to happen. I was bait. Lurking? Oh, poor you. How awful to be manipulated. Yes, I could see Ninika's had her eye on you. It was just a case of seeing if she was going to do anything about it. And she did. That's brilliant. Brilliant. Leonie finished her wine and looked at him. I have no idea what you're so upset about. I saved you before the naughty woman could besmirch your precious virtue, didn't I? To be serious, I really needed to know what she would do. It is very important. Important? Important how, exactly? Cabal was having difficulty keeping both his temper and his voice down. He was pining badly for his laboratory. Things were so much simpler there. If something proved problematical, he could just drop it in the waste bin and start again. Sometimes, admittedly, whatever proved problematical didn't especially want to go into the bin, and he might have to smite it several times with a retort stand, or perhaps shoot it before it would behave, but these were procedures he understood and used. This great social laboratory with which Leonie Barrow seemed so at home was a horrible mystery to him, and he especially despised being used as an experimental subject. You're a scientist. Sort of. You know how important it is to follow a hypothesis with a practical experiment. I thought I knew what kind of person Lady Ninika was. But I needed to be sure. That's where you came in. Thank you for that. Your look of gormless incomprehension as the tigress circled you will keep me amused for many years to come, I'm sure. Cabal ignored the slight with difficulty. Are you saying she's the killer, or involved somehow? Ninika had been wearing long sleeves and gloves, the skin of her arms and hands being far more thoroughly covered than other parts of her body. Could she have been wearing a bandage beneath the material? No, of course not. She's a bored Aristotle, not Lucrezia Borgia. All she wants in life is a new dress, exciting parties, and to go for the occasional gallop on an obliging member of the bourgeoisie. She ignored Cabal's glower. Just think what she may be instead of a killer. Cabal couldn't. If she wasn't directly involved in Daguerre's disappearance or attack in the vent, then Lady Ninika seemed entirely irrelevant. Leonie watched his mental wheels spin haplessly until she took pity on him. She could be a witness. A witness? But Daguerre vanished from a locked room, and there was nobody else in the vent except my attacker and me. How could she have seen anything? Miss Barrow looked agonizingly sage, not to say smug. Ah, there's more than one type of witness. It's not what she saw. It's what she didn't see. And she would say no more, not even when Cabal made several veiled threats of physical violence. Miss Ambersley answered the knock at Lady Ninica's stateroom door. If she was prepared to find Leonie Barrow there, or dismayed to find Cabal, she showed no sign of it. She asked them only for a moment to see if her ladyship was receiving visitors. When she returned, she ushered them inside. Lady Ninica was waiting to receive them in the sitting-room of her suite, a far cry from the small, if well-appointed cabins of Cabal, Miss Barrow, and the late Mr. de Guerre. She was the very embodiment of reserved politeness, but she plainly expected the interview to go one way, and an awkward way at that. She ordered tea and made small talk until it arrived. When it did, she tactfully dismissed Miss Ambersley, who left without rancor, saying that she hoped the young people had a pleasant chat. Lady Ninica waited until the door had closed quietly behind Miss Ambersley before speaking. You are doubtless here to discuss my talking with Herr Meisner without proper supervision, she said in a reasonable tone that carried the message that there was nothing here about which they could not come to an agreement. Doubtless, said Miss Barrow, smiling. It was the smile of a large predator just prior to driving its fangs into the prey's cervical vertebra. Actually, no. We're here to talk about Gabriel Zurich. Cabal endeavored not to look surprised. Were they? Lady Ninica blanched slightly. I don't really know the gentleman. Please, 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 don't start off by making statements that you later come to regret. Miss Barrow shook her head like a governess who has caught a small child out in a transparent lie. Lady Ninica was having none of it. I spoke to him at dinner last night. That is the limit of my association with the man. Oh dear, said Miss Barrow regretfully. You see, I'm afraid you've wasted your time coming here. Oh, no, that's not what I'm sorry for. I was just feeling sorry for poor Herr Zurich, thrown into the brig, all alone, and under suspicion of murdering Mr. de Guerre. Well, of course, we're all sorry. I hadn't quite finished, interrupted Miss Barrow, looking steadily at Lady Ninica. Ninica shifted awkwardly in her chair. Despite himself, Cabal couldn't help but admire Leonie Barrow's handling of the interview. She had found a chink in her ladyship's armor, driven a stiletto deep into it, and was now slowly turning the blade. What I was about to say was that I feel so very sorry for Herr Zurich's being in such a dreadful situation when he is entirely innocent. Lady Ninica sat very still, hardly breathing. Entirely innocent, yet unable to prove it. Because proving it depends on an alibi, and it's an alibi that the poor, stupid, chivalrous boy refuses to use. Lady Ninica, deciding that outraged morality would provide a suitable high ground, retorted, What are you implying? Miss Barrow laughed, still pleasant, as if they were discussing hats. I'm not implying anything, your ladyship. I'm stating it. You are Gabriel Zurich's alibi. While he was supposed to be off engineering a disappearance and attacking Herr Meisner here, he was in fact... Shall I use a euphemism? He was providing you with company through the dark hours? That seems like a gallant way of putting it. I could be... Shall I use a euphemism? He was providing you with company through the dark hours? That seems like a gallant way of putting it. I could be far more specific, of course, if you'd prefer. It was clear that Lady Ninica did not prefer. Standing slightly unsteadily on her dignity, she said, This is an outrage, Miss Barrow. It is libel in front of a witness. You will regret this vile slur. No, I shan't. You're quite wrong on 2 counts. First, you mean slander, not libel. Second, it is only a slander if it isn't true. We both know it is. Let us not quibble, Lady Ninica. There is a man in serious trouble, and all it requires is a word from you, and the inquiry will discreetly redirect its attentions elsewhere. Isn't that so, Herr Meisner? Somehow Cabal managed not to look around. He'd been so attentive to what was being said that he had momentarily forgotten that he was incognito. Of course, my lady, we are not journalists looking for something to amuse the hoi polloi, nor do we travel in your circles. We simply wish to clarify the events of last night. The search for my attacker has stopped because Captain Sten believes he has him in custody. He decided not to tell her that the search had resumed, not when he could see a way to bring Ninika's self-interest into play. If he is wrong, that means the real criminal is still at large, walking these very corridors. We have no inkling why I was attacked, or whether Mr. Daguerre's disappearance truly was suicide. It is not inconceivable that the perpetrator has not yet finished his or her plan, whatever it may be, in which case nobody aboard is safe. He looked significantly at Ninika. Nobody. Ninika considered. Then she said, "There is not an iota of truth in what you say. You understand that? I have a chaperone to guard my honor. How do you propose that I led this ridiculous demonardaine existence you hint at under the very nose of Miss Ambersley? Does she strike you as so laissez-faire?" Leonie Barrow did not flicker an eyelid, nor did she speak, and Cabal knew that she had no answer. He, on the other hand, did. Once he had got over the initial shock of being selected as a bedpost notch, he had been thinking events and conversations through again in light of this revelation, and he had made a deduction or two of his own. Miss Barrow might be a superior in matters of the human mind, but when it came to raw data, he was the master of synthesis. "No," he admitted, pleased to be adding something concrete to the arena. "She does not, nor is she. Then again, you don't strike me as a woman with insomnia." Miss Barrow looked sideways at him, and he met her glance. There was something like satisfaction and perhaps a tick of respect there. He felt childishly pleased for a moment before reminding himself that this was the same woman who intended to hand him over to the Sensen authorities on the morrow. "What nonsense is this?" demanded Lady Ninika. It was bluster, and weak bluster at that. "You are not an insomniac. You claim to be, but only so that your doctor will prescribe you sleeping powders. These you squirrel away until such times as they are required, specifically when a conscious Miss Ambersley would just get in the way." Lady Ninika said nothing, but simply looked at her gloved hands lying in her lap. It seemed that she had finally realized that denying everything was simply undignified. "Finally," said Miss Barrow, "now we can move on. Herr Meisner will inform the captain that there is a witness who can state that Herr Zorak was nowhere near Daguerre's cabin on the event last night. The captain will want a name." Lady Ninika colored slightly. "Herr Meisner will have to provide it, but he will also underline the need for discretion. The captain's no fool. The matter will go no further, and Herr Zorak will be released, free of suspicion. You need have no part of any discussions, although you may depend on the captain paying you a visit to confirm these facts. He will probably also wish to know why you did not come forward earlier." Miss Barrow's voice hardened. "Which is an excellent question that I would like answered myself." There were several seconds of silence. "Must I say?" whispered Lady Ninika. "Yes," said Cabal. "You must." She looked up. The confident young woman of only a few minutes before had gone. Now she had trouble meeting their eyes. When she finally managed it, she said only one thing. "It was romantic." "Romantic?" said Captain Sten after Cabal had taken him to one side and told him the state of affairs. "I couldn't say," admitted Cabal. "I believe the idea of a man prepared to fritter away his liberty in defense of her honor occurring outside of a novel was a profound shock to her." He coughed and added in a confidential tone, "I fear the young lady is becoming jaded well before her time." "Good God!" said the captain. He shook his head and brought himself back to the matters at hand. "I'll have to talk to her, of course, but I'll have a word with Herr Zorak first." "He won't say anything." I know, but at least we can let him know what we know." and that his release is imminent, should be a weight off his mind. Come along, mein Herr, let us give the unhappy chevalier some cause for joy. They walked down the silent corridor to Zorik's temporary cabin. As they approached, Cabal commented, I notice you do not have a guard posted, Captain. A guard? This isn't a military ship. Besides, you've seen that cabin. There are no windows, and the lock is secure enough. I don't think we have anything to fear, especially in light of Herr Zorik's apparent innocence. He took out his key wallet and moved to unlock the door. That seems like very few keys for a vessel with so many doors, Captain, said Cabal. Sten held up the key he had selected. Most of these are for my house, he smiled. This is a master key. He inserted it into the lock and opened the door. Cabal looked into the room as the door swung open, swore a short and bitter oath, and was through before the captain had even taken his hand off the handle. Cabal's switchblade was in his hand in a thrice, and the blade out by the time he reached Zorik's dangling body. He climbed quickly onto the interview table, noted instantly that it would take too long to try and release Zorik's belt from either the light fitting at the ceiling or from around the man's neck, and instead sawed quickly through the taut leather. He kept the blade very keen for a variety of reasons, and was glad of it now. The belt parted quickly, and Zorik dropped to the floor, where he was caught and slowly lowered by Sten, who had overcome his own paralysis of shock. Cabal checked Zorik's pulse at his throat and wrist, but the already cool skin told him it was a vain effort. He rocked back onto his heels, glaring angrily at the corpse. Stupid! He spat. Sten thought Cabal was talking to him for a moment, but then realized Cabal was talking to the dead man. Stupid! 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 Life is such a precious gift, and to squander it, and for what? For some idiotic concept of honor? You fool! You utter... Words failed him as he paced up and down, breathing hard with fury. Sten perched on the edge of the table and looked at Zorik. Hanging without much of a drop was a hard way to go. The young man's face was mottled dark, his eyes bulging, his tongue pushed out of his mouth. The room stank. In extremis, Zorik had voided his bowels. This whole voyage is cursed, he murmured. I've never heard the like. A disappearance, an attempted murder, a suicide. We can't tell the other passengers about this. Not yet. It'll put the women in a panic, and then when the sentence board... He shook his head. This must remain confidential until then. Just what is happening aboard my ship, Herr Meisner? Cabal ceased his pacing and looked down at the body. Sten noticed that he didn't even flinch at such an awful sight. Civil servants were supposed to have ice water for blood, but surely even their sang-froid had limits. A murder, an attempted murder, and a suicide. I'm sure of it. I doubt we shall ever see Mr. de Guerre again. Cabal held his chin in his hand and thought for a moment longer. Possibly 2 murders. Sten looked up sharply at him. What? How secure is this room, Captain? There was no guard on the door. Anybody could have walked in here and done away with Zorik. It was locked. They're master keys. Only 3. The first mate's the purser's and mine. Mine has never been out of my sight since I boarded, and I can guarantee that the purser and the first mate can say the same about theirs. Bearing a master key is a serious responsibility, Herr Meisner, and I can assure you that they are never left lying around. As for the characters of First Mate Viet and Purser Johannes, I would trust my life to them, unless, he said, his brow clouding, you suspect me also. Yes, Captain, I do. But only for purposes of keeping an open mind, in exactly the same way that you should suspect me. As for serious suspects, well, Zorik was all we had, and then only because of his wrist injury. Means, motivation, and opportunity eluded us. No, they continue to elude us. A thought occurred to Cabal. Tell me, Captain, did you ever complete your checks for similar wounds on anybody else aboard? Sten nodded. Nobody. Zorik here was the only one. You know, even if you're right and de Guerre was murdered, it doesn't necessarily mean that Zorik did it. but he may have still been your attacker. He coughed. His companion for the evening could have fallen asleep for some time. Not long, but long enough for him to find the vent open and go to investigate. Is that likely? Not if the two events are unrelated, but what if Zorik was in cahoots with somebody else? He allows himself to fall for... He coughed again. He did not seem able to mention Lady Ninika's name in direct reference to such sordid activities, as if it were somehow treasonable. For his companion's wiles, and that provides him with an alibi, which he doesn't use, which he doesn't need to use for the moment. He can hold off naming names until it is convenient for him, and will be regarded all the more as a gentleman for being so reticent until he had no choice. It's an interesting thought, but I perceive a problem. Sten was very taken with his hypothesis and frowned at Cabal. What problem? The problem lying at our feet. If this was all part of his plan, why did he hang himself? Sten had no answer and shrugged. Sorry, Captain, said Cabal. The only reason I can think of is that he did not commit suicide but was murdered by this accomplice that you imagine, presumably to make sure Zorik has no opportunity to turn coat. You tell me, however, that this room could not have been entered. If you are right, your theory founders. Sten stood up and looked across at the door, arms crossed. Locks can be picked, Cabal nodded. Indeed, they can, he said heavily, and a little ruefully, as if this was an unpleasant occurrence of which he had personal experience. He went to the door and examined first the lock itself, then the bolt and striking plate, and then the lock again. If it has been picked, it's been done by an expert. I can see no trace of pick scratches or anything else unexpected, but that doesn't preclude the possibility that it was indeed picked by an expert. An assassin, said Sten slowly. Cabal looked at him with raised eyebrow. An assassin, repeated Sten, warming to the idea. A trained killer. He, or possibly she, was working with Zorik. Zorik makes himself the obvious suspect and draws off the heat, but he doesn't realize that he's expendable. You, Cabal said severely, should cut down on the caffeine and on reading Fennec Dreadfuls. Highly trained assassins, indeed. No, we should hearken to Friar William of Ockham and his Antita non sunt multiplicanda pleata necessitatem. This appears to be a suicide, and if the only alternative involves bizarre orders of wraith-like assassins haunting the corridors of the Princess Hortense, then a suicide it certainly is. A young fool doing the decent thing, if you can dignify it as thus. The only mystery extant in the corner of the affair is the wounded wrist. That remains puzzling. Come, let us leave this room before the stink settles in our clothing, Captain. You should inform your medical officer immediately, and then decide exactly what you are going to tell the Sensen authorities. There is little time left. And there's a picture. I'll put it in the Instagram. Picture of an entomopter. And that's chapter 10. So now, Johannes gets hit on, fails to see that he's been hit on. Leonie lets him know, and then basically tells him that he wasn't her first choice, that it was Herr Zorik, who is in the brig under suspicion of murder, or an attempted murder. And when they go to find Herr Zorik, he's dead. He's dead. And theories abound. And you know what? If you were thinking assassins, I don't blame you. And in fact, you know what? Dead body. Yeah. Missing body, dead body, and attempted murder. So we're really in the thick of it now. I hope you all are enjoying it. Have you not read ahead, Thorny? Didn't you? Johannes Cabal the Detective. This is the second one. The first one is called Johannes Cabal the Necromancer. It's a series of 5. We've read the complete first one. All the other chapters are on my YouTube if you want to go and re-listen to them. The YouTube link is in my bio, is on my TikTok bio. And you can listen to the entirety of the first book and catch up with the second if you're interested. Or you can just purchase and read the book. I'm sure Jonathan Howard would appreciate it. It's a really good book. It's my favorite book, in fact. My favorite series that I've ever read. Dad's here. Hi, Dad. Yeah, I had figured it out at this point after I sort of mulled it over, and I was like, anyway. Hi, Dad. Yeah, no, it's a great series. But we are about halfway through the second one. We have 3 more to go, and there's a bunch of short stories, so we have so much ground to cover. But we're doing well with it. Averaging about 2 chapters every week on Tuesdays at 8. So if you'd like to join us, you can hop back on here at 8 next Tuesday, 8 Central, and you can listen to the next 2 on the live if you'd like, and, join us all. Have you adopted the entirety of the chat? God. He's got a real problem with adopting kids. At 8 p.m. Central? Oh, are you in a different time zone? That would make sense. You're in a different geographical area to where you would be in school at that time. You can always catch it on the YouTube and catch the ending of it. All of these go on YouTube in their entirety. I just download the live from TikTok and then I upload it on YouTube. So you can hear the story there if you want to. Geological. Yeah, I'm sorry. I fucked up. There's a lot of beer in this thing. I mean, smoothie in this thing. And I have consumed quite a bit of it. And it is a stout smoothie, if you get my meaning, to go with the Mercarvian theme. Yeah, it's a big stein. Yeah, I went with okay. The Guinness Book of Records? Anyway, smoothie. I've had quite a bit of it. It's my favorite day. I like to have a smoothie on Tuesdays because it is my favorite day. Because I get to do this. Smoothie refill time, now that it's mentioned. Yeah, everybody refill your smoothies. Yeah, I'm sure you can. It's really suitable for cake. Smooths day. Cheesecake. Dad did make... Okay, no. An actual smoothie. That's what we say in, it was like the iCarly meme for a long time. But we still say that, frequently. I came out of the room while I was filming earlier, and I have a syringe half filled with liquid, and, Sarah is carrying a bunch of fabric in his arms, just like a heap of it, and we both pause in the hallway and look at each other. And he was like, both of us at the same time were like, a smoothie? And he was like, how is yours weirder than mine? Because I'm holding like a syringe that's just half filled with... Anyway. It was perfectly synchronized too. I can't recreate it, but it was really funny. Are we all swapping cake recipes? Thank you for the roses. I appreciate it. Are we all swapping cake recipes? We should have a thing on the place where we talk about things for recipe contributions. Is Midoriya in here? Midoriya is here. You're always going to be Midoriya. I know you. I just called them that. I call them Deku all the time. I didn't know they were in here. I thought I saw them earlier and then I didn't see them anymore. Yeah, we can add that in there. To the it's a me, Deku. Yes, it's a you. You're always just going to be Deku. I just call you that. It's solidified in my brain. You're at work. That makes sense because you work at nights. Lady Eva's here. Lady Eva, you missed everything. Everything. Everything's already happened. We also have a rant suggested tab in the redacted. Excellent. I'm so glad you're here. I was wondering why we were short. And I knew we were, I hadn't seen you and, I know they were in here at the beginning. Simp for Danks dropped in, and then I think they left again, but I'm not sure. It's the last Tuesday you train? Oh, okay. I mean, you guys don't have to be here, technically. You don't have to do this. I get it, but you don't have to, this isn't an obligation. I don't want anybody to treat it like that. If you gotta do stuff, you gotta do stuff, and we can always catch up later. I'm sure people in the place where we talk about things are gonna let you know what you missed. And it'll all be on YouTube, so... Good. Okay. If you want to be here, that's different. Great. Stay here. It is an obligation. Yes. For you. For you. Only. Only for Finn is attendance a requirement. No, I'm joking. You aren't required to be here either. Crimson almost every single time is like the first one in, the first one to say hi, so they see me when I'm still plugging shit in and eating things and attaching stuff to my body like I don't know what I'm doing and I've never done a live before in my life. So Crimson always sees the worst parts of me and is still sticking with it, and I respect that. So thank you. New Tuesday Smooth Day routine. Every single week I have like a different thing going on. Sometimes I have my cat mug with my tea in it or my coffee in it, and sometimes I have a different smoothie in a different vessel. And sometimes I'm drinking out of chemistry equipment. It's a fun time. You never know what you're gonna get here. I'm glad this can be that for you. For everybody chilling and I'm putting them to sleep, I enjoy that. Let your babies and your pets fall asleep to my voice. Sometimes it helps, or so I'm told. And then Denki can come in here and yell and scream about something and wake them up again. so I can put you to sleep again. Oh snap, Deku's gonna have Tuesdays off this month. I'm never gonna be free again. Ooh yes, we have a large collection of tea. I'll have to give you a tea tour at some point because we get a lot of tea. Everything from like tea bags that you can get at Walmart to companies that are defunct and out of business now. Like I can't. It's all over the place. My tea cabinet is an entire, because that's it also, is like some tea companies that I used to get from, I can't get them anymore, so now I'm deathly terrified of consuming the last of them, so I never drink it. There's no logic in that. I'm keeping it so I can have it, but I can't drink it because then I won't have it. I'm filled with anxiety all the time. Once again, in the name, it's Anxious Undertaker. Not super chill Undertaker, not happy to be here Undertaker, not, just anxious, just anxiety. Right? Like, there are books that have been so hyped up for me, I can almost never read them. Because then I won't have them for when I desperately need them, but then when I need them, I don't read them. Like when I'm like after I've read a book and you get that book funk, where you finished a really good book and you're like, oh no. Now what am I going to do with my life? I don't even know what I was doing before this. I used to have hopes and dreams and goals, and now I can't think of a single thing I want to do other than read this same book, but different, but just as good of a quality. And where am I going to find that? And I do that. And then I'm like, that's what I've saved this book for. That's what it's sitting on the to-be-read shelf for. And I know what to expect. Because I've had either someone prep me on it or someone's recommended it that I trust wholeheartedly. And it's sitting on the shelf waiting for me, and I'm like, you know what, this would be the perfect opportunity, but if I read it, I'll just experience the book funk again, and I won't be able to do it. And so I don't, and it stays on the to-be-read shelf, and then I get weirdly melancholy for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, honestly, where I can't think of a single thing to do with myself. And then somehow I end up in the same routine. Yes. Thorny. There's so many book recs in there, I'm actually quite excited about getting some of them. What was the... There was one I saw in there the other day that I was like, I gotta go back and bookmark that. And I know exactly where I found it. So I'm going to have to go back in there and find it again. Oh, really? If you haven't read Stiff, it's a good read. It's non-fiction, but Mary Roach is very evocative in a humorous way about the entire situation. And so, of course, it's all about the study of what you can have done to your corpse after you die. So, not a thrilling topic for everyone not in this live right now. So, I don't know why I'm defending it, but it's a very interesting... You're halfway through Stiff? Yeah. Hey, it's really good. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Are you not getting anything out of it, Swiftblood? Are you serious? You're going to look at me and you're going to tell me that I'm wrong? Her sister was a witch. Okay. Schedule? How generous of you to call it a schedule. Swiftblood, schedule, they say with their full chest. Yeah, neither has Swiftblood. That's the joke. Oh, emojis as defense, as a defense is not schedule by the loosest definition, which is in fact no definition at all of schedule. You gotta keep that shit tight for it to be considered anything like a schedule. That's contrary to its own definition. But I see your point, Lady Eve. The schedule happens occasionally. True, true. Ah, yes, consume the medications. The Hunger was really good. It's an interesting fictional rendition of the Donner Party. If you don't know what that is, The Hunger is really good. I like that one. I've also been very intrigued by the Donner Party, so I thought it was an interesting take on the subject. If you don't know what the Donner Party is, look it up. It's wild. I'm not going to go through the entire... We'll be here all night. And I don't want to do that. Look, I have experiments to run, Lovecraft to read. I actually have not seen Heathers. I try and stay away from musical theater as much as possible. That sounded terrible. And so offensive to the artistic community, which I suppose I'm in. I stand by it. The Troop is very much a good horror novel. If you are squeamish, take it in pieces. That's all I'll say. You can still get through it, but you might have a little bit of a struggle. The Troop is a bit grotesque in its descriptions. Very body horror. Very... If Victor Frankenstein wrote Lord of the Flies... Never mind. Take it in pieces if you're squeamish. I will put that out there if you're planning on reading The Troop. Yes, do it. It's short and sweet. I liked it. It's not too long. It is horrifying. Also, Pica? Never mind. It's just very... The eating. Anyway, The Troop is very interesting. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm like trying to give you warnings for it. There's one that isn't musical theater. Well, no, okay. See, the thing is, not necessarily Pica in it. It's something that induces a state similar to Pica. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, stop all your head on The Troop. I will. But it's a really good book, and if you like horror and you can handle a little bit of body horror and a little bit of avant-garde surgery, then you're good to go. Enjoy it. Have fun. Report back to me. It's a movie, but then the musical was based off the movie. Ah, okay. Have a good evening. Yes. I fully understand your need to go. I read right before that. I ate right before I read, so this is good. If anybody has to leave, do not feel bad. We will stay here and might be here when you get back, if you come back. Yeah, it's not pica in a sense that induces a state like pica. It's think the government invents the government. No. In an endeavor to enhance chemical warfare, they are doing an experiment on a worm that goes in the human body, and they were discovering all sorts of different uses for it, but it went wrong. The subject escapes, and that's the premise. That happens in the first chapter, so I'm not spoiling a whole bunch of stuff right now. You'll find that out like literally first chapter. But it induces a state similar to pica. Pica is, it's basically when you're induced into eating things that you technically, most normal people would not even be able or much less want to consume, like clay or, in their case, wood. You don't eat normally. It's an induced eating of something that you're not supposed to consume, generally. But there's a lot of reasons why people with pica do it, where they have like a imbalance in their chemical makeup, like iron deficiencies or stuff like that, or too much iron. There's things that can induce pica, but normally worms aren't a part of pica. That's part of the book. But it does induce them to, when food isn't within general reach, they start eating things that aren't conventionally food. And I'll go ahead and save you the trouble. Very disturbing read. Very disturbing read. Yeah, you crave food without nutritional value. Dirt, clay, wood. You're not supposed to eat it. You're not supposed to eat it. Concrete. But that's pica. That's pica. But the troop, yeah, nutritional deficiency is normally the problem in some way. And for someone who really likes medical abnormalities and does really enjoy horror novels, I enjoyed it immensely. I kept like trying to rationalize the entire thing, and I was like, it's a work of fiction, calm down. Your anxiety is going crazy. Ate at his crib, looked like a beaver got into it. Oh, yeah. That's like normally like one of the odder things is like eating furniture was a big thing, and like eating like at one point that is part of the troop, is at one point when like food isn't heavily available, he's like shoveling dirt into his mouth, and the way it's described is disturbing. But if you read the troop, there's a lot of stuff like that in it, and it's kind of crazy. You're trying to do your eyeliner right now. Well, that's the thing, is where it differentiates from teething is normally it's to get relief from the ache in the gums. So they might break pieces off, but they won't generally consume them. But if you, in a lot of people with pica, it's not something that's just with babies. Like, there are grown adults who have had pica and can't stop eating dirt. So not generally the same thing, but it is common in younger children that normally a lot of the time can and would know better. But, like, you don't ordinarily see, like, you might see a toddler eat, like, a worm or something, and you're like, whoa. But if you see an 8-year-old eating pottery shards, not something that normally happens. But some people have. And there's grown adults that'll eat clay. It's crazy. Bricks. Bricks. Seriously, pica is a real thing you can get in your adult life. Like, it's wild. But yeah, that's generally what pica is. But if babies or toddlers are consuming a lot of that, it's something for a toddler to put something in their mouth and then swallow it. Toddlers do that all the time. But when they're directly consuming a large amount of, like, say, furniture, like their crib, that is considered odd. You don't generally see that. So I guess it depends on how much wood was missing from this crib. Which I would be interested to know. No pressure. Don't tell me anything personal about your lives that you don't feel comfortable with. Or do. I don't know. I'm not in charge of your life. But I think it's very interesting, and The Troop is a really good read if you're ever interested. I would love to do that on here. But I am for sure going to get banned. I would try, but I know better. And if you've started reading The Troop or have read The Troop, you know why. We can't do that. You know why we can't do that. It's unfortunate. It would be really fun to do, like... I will say I wouldn't be above reading Lovecraft on here if you wanted to know a lot of the inspiration for Johannes. No, just go over to YouTube and do it. I might move to Instagram or to YouTube for certain books if you really want to hear them. We can do the lives on there, or I can just post them on there if you want to go listen to it. Keep it to the redacted place. Yeah, we might do a voice chat and I'll read you The Troop. We'll do that after the normal live. We call it the after party. Did anybody see that episode of 30 Rock, or did nobody get that reference? No, we're going to the after party. What's the after party? Hey Liz, you coming? We're going to the after party. I love that show. Yeah, a lot of the time we're in the voice chat afterward anyway. You want me to sleep for this? You don't have to do that. Or, okay, hear me out, because the way my schedule lays out. Am I about to do another thing? Anyway, hold on. I kicked the ring light. Hold on. I'm going to give you a breakdown of my schedule, okay? So, Thursday through Sunday, I work full time. I work at night. I don't get off until about 3 in the morning, Central. Monday is my, like, clean this house day. I do all my laundry, get my shit done. I do stuff with Sarah. We went and got chicken yesterday. It was great. But I block all that off because otherwise I'm never going to have clean laundry. Tuesdays are my filming day. I get into cosplay. I do my song and dance for you all. I get on here. I read you pieces of the book that we're reading. I get off. I normally either go in the voice chat in the Discord in the redacted place for a little bit. And then I do whatever. And sometimes I have obligations after this. But not normally. And then Wednesday is I spend time with my partners. They're both off work. We're all off work. We go and we watch wrestling. If this is news to you that we watch wrestling, good. I'm not your stereotype. I like what I like. Anyway, so if that's surprising to you, eat it. I don't know. Anyway, but hear me out. Most of you are up quite late, and if you would like, we can do like an after dark session of book club where we read stuff that we can't read on TikTok Live if you want. And the troop can be part of that, because I know there's some books that I've thought about that I'm like, man, I would love to do that. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way. You'll get banned. Like, you'll just get banned. You can't. There's too much. There's too much. And so if you would like or be interested in that, we can do that maybe on one of the days where after I get off work. So that way our week is broken up into like we have secret book club at band at the speed of light, but we can have secret book club on like a Sunday or like a Thursday or Friday or Saturday. Thursday through Sunday. I won't be in cosplay for it, but we can do that on like Instagram or YouTube or the Redacted Place. With Fight Club rules, yes. After book club. Going to the after party. And it can be like after dark. If you're interested. And you're awake. You don't have to wake up for shit like this. But I just know that with the vast quantity of you who are awake at the times when I am chilling in here, normally reading at my leisure, and not doing anything, if you'd be interested in that, let me know. And also, book suggestions for either would be just lovely. We're going to be working on Johannes on TikTok for a while, but apart from the troop, nothing comes to the top of my head. I know I have some pretty messed up stuff, but nothing's coming to mind immediately. But if you have another book that you'd like for the after party, book club after dark, send them to me, because apart from the troop, I don't have any immediate thoughts that come to mind. But we can make that happen if you want. If I don't stay awake, is it going to be posted somewhere? I don't know, because I wouldn't know if it got banned. I maybe can put it on YouTube. I'll probably put that on the YouTube channel and see if it doesn't. I'll just put it age restricted. That'll be fine. But that is my thought. You all can decide if you would like that or if that would be... Because I don't foresee a huge audience with that one, because it'll be in the middle of the night. No one's going to be awake. There's not going to be a lot of people. It's not going to be exceedingly public. You all... technically, the Redacted Place is free to join, but I'm not telling you how to get there. Wait, have you read once? I mean, I did just read. Oh, is that the book? Once? What? If that's an actual book, hold on. I can't look it up because you guys are on my phone. Yes, the book is called Once. Okay, I was a little thrown off. I was like, I have read a few times. Yes, I read a lot. Okay. No, I just saw this. Guys, you're blowing up the secret place, the redacted place. And I can't, it's interfering. I'm getting notifications on my phone. I have not. But if you would like to give me a synopsis, or I can look it up after this is over. Because I'm not going to stay on too much longer. I gotta go. I have a standing appointment with an associate after this. It was you. I'm pretty sure it was your icon. Ooh, okay. It's really sad. Yeah, I don't know if we could do Holocaust stuff on here. That might be a bit much for public TikTok. But I'll look into it. I'll be very surprised if Denki hasn't read it. That's been a hyperfixation of theirs for a long amount of time. They met a Holocaust survivor when they were very young, and it made a very large impression on them. So they've read every book, seen everything. Okay, I'll have to check out the series. And I love anything that has a series in it. If there's more than 5 books to anything, I'm on it. Because and that's the thing, is I constantly get hooked on books that, one, are part of an unfinished series, like Name of the Wind. Never gonna know how that ended. And if you've read that, and you're still hanging on to hope, you're deluding yourself, and you're just damaging yourself more. Emotional damage. Or the Titanic. I will ask. I'll let you know. I don't know what they're doing right now, but I don't want to just go barge in there. You have to go. Alrighty, well, we will see you later. I have to go here shortly too, actually. I have a standing appointment with an associate that I would like to get to at a reasonable hour. I didn't give them a definite time frame because I knew this was happening and I didn't know how long I was going to be here. But, in fact, that might be them. Is that?